Converted man here. Okay. Atheism is impossible. Wow. I didn't know that it was impossible for me not to believe in God. But apparently it is. Oh, he probably means the other version of atheism that, like, I don't know who uses anymore. That says, there is no God. I mean, I guess it depends what God is, which is a problem that theists have yet to ever address in any coherent manner. But maybe this random guy on the internet will finally have a valid and sound argument, right? Right? Any takers? Anyone want to bet? I've got 9-1 odds. 1,000,000,000 to. I have infinite odds that he will not do this. That he will do this. If you want to bet that he will do this, even if he didn't bet at all, zero. You bet zero, and if he does produce a valid and sound argument, you win everything. So, like the entire universe. You now own the universe, in fact. I am pretty sure he's not going to produce that. I suspect he's going to give us the Kalam cosmological argument or something like it. And maybe say something about morals and, who knows? I don't know. I'm sure he's going to mention the Bible at least once because they can't resist doing that. Let's find out how wrong, incoherent, and broken his argument truly is. Shall we?
How do you know that there's a God? It's actually a very simple question, and the answer is so easy. By doing some deductive reasoning, you can know that there is a God. You can also show it to others. Now, as with most apologetics, most unbelievers will not accept this because their reason for being an unbeliever is not a scientific reason or a logical reason.
How do you know that that's the case? Have you done a wide-scale survey of atheists to discover that they don't have a scientific reason or a logical reason to not believe? No, of course not. So you don't know that this is true. You have zero citation to back this up. And I dare say, given my limited experience as it is with the atheists I've encountered, that this is not true so far. At least, again, in my minor dots on the chart of experience. Every atheist I've talked to has some reason. Now, I just done an interview with somebody, and their reason was, well, they were never told that God existed in the first place, so they didn't have that belief growing up, and that's it. That's their reason for not believing. They just weren't introduced to the concept. Pretty straightforward to me, but I'm sure that their reason can't have anything to do with science or logic, but isn't it apologists that usually say that science has nothing to do with God? So I'm not sure which it's going to be. Can science prove God? Yes or no? Like the actual thing. Can we examine that? Not that science points to God or suggests God, but that it actually can examine God. No. Oh, okay. Right. Well, let's find out. Yes.
The power of God for salvation is in the gospel, not in human reasoning. But this is a very logical short proof for there being God. At the end, I'll share one more passage that actually proves a theory that Einstein invented, after it had been in the Bible for over 2,500 years.
Einstein says something that had been in the Bible for what? Huh? What? Oh, look, Einstein invented something that had been in the Bible, which would mean that Einstein didn't invent it. He was quoting from the Bible. How does any of this work again? I don't know. Let's find out. This should be good. Oh, wasting money. You sent him to go to places.
So let's assume that we don't know. Or we are agnostic. That's what word agnostic means.
Not exactly. Had you bothered to look up agnostic, it's not exactly I don't know, although it's close. Actually, agnosticism is a position that knowledge of God can neither be known nor unknown. That is to say that you can't know that there is a God and you can't know that there isn't a God. Although some say that that's not the position that they want agnosticism to be, and so the word is changing over time, as all words do. Damn it, natural language, why can't you just stay the same? Oh well.
Without knowledge. Now let's figure out a basic question. Where did everything come from?
What do you mean? Everything? Well, this came from some factory. I mean, these little slits on the window, that came from some factory, I guess. I don't know which factory. I don't even know how I'd find out. I could find something similar to it, though. And also, then I'd have to do the same thing for the thing that's up there, and the roof and the walls. And no. You mean everything? Oh my goodness, that's a lot of things to tell you the answers to. But let's just say for the moment that I don't know. Okay. And what point does that allow us to conclude? Not knowing the answer to this insanely complicated question doesn't mean anything. It just means we lack that knowledge. I have no idea what factory these were produced at. I don't know where they got the wood or plaster or whatever cement to construct these walls from, or who did it or when. I guess I could find out some of that information, but I'm not sure how any of it would be relevant. And you said everything, which would include atoms and molecules and subatomic particles. Well, those things came from stars. Where did the stars come from? Gravity. Yeah, the fundamental force of gravity pulling together elements until they were hot enough to form a star. So where did gravity come from? Well, it didn't come from anywhere. Gravity is an inherent property of everything, apparently. So even when it's really small, it still has gravity, and so everything gets closer together and closer together until, boom, you get a star. So you just need to have some sort of mass at some level to have gravity. And where did the atoms come from that made those elements? Well, they began to form in the early start of the universe, somewhere after the T something point, maybe 2 or 3 or 4. It was really hot for a while, so it had to cool down before atoms and molecules could even begin to form. Well, but how did they form, and why did they do that? Good question. Don't know. They just did. Now, that's maybe an unsatisfactory answer, but that's the best we've got right now. So can you then conclude, well, since we don't know, then that means something else? That therefore means that non-knowledge must be replaced by some answer that you have, that you've decided that's an answer, even though it's not an answer, and it's simply assertion that you're going to make? We don't know the answer to this question. You don't know it either, but you're going to pretend to know, aren't you?
Where did the world come from? Where did life come from? I'm going to narrow it down to two choices. Something.
Okay, so you're going to create a false dichotomy. Where did life come from? Abiogenesis would be the area that you'd want to explore for that. Remember, you mentioned science, so okay, they came from the chemical soup, different elements bouncing around in hot stuff until they made more and more complicated stuff to then become what we would call life. There you go. Simple answer. Where did the Earth come from? Again, various different particles that were getting closer and closer together until they finally formed our planet. And that happened after the sun was already a thing, not before or not during. So you have to have a sun first, then you can get planets that will orbit that sun, because the sun is producing the things that will actually become the planets. So that's pretty cool. So in a sense, the Earth was born from the sun's dust and poop in a way, and other stuff that might already be in the solar system as well. So there you go. There's the answers. broadly speaking and loosely speaking, to that question. But you're going to instead present us with a false dichotomy. All right, here we go.
Or nothing. Can you think of another choice? Can you think of another choice between nothing? Narrow it down to two choices: something or nothing.
Those aren't the choices. Something or nothing are not the choices here. We know it's something because we actually know the answer to this question. But we don't know what nothing even is. We only have our definition of the word nothing. And it's a philosophical concept. It is a concept. And if it's actual, well, we have no example of it. And we couldn't, because everywhere that we can point to is a something. Even if you hold up your hand and say, look, I have nothing here. Well, actually, you do have stuff there. You have lots of stuff all around your hand all the time and on your hand. There is no example of nothing that you can show because nothing would not be anything, not even rules like laws of nature or perhaps even laws of logic themselves. So perhaps nothing is impossible because if you have no laws of logic, then you have paradox. And if you have paradox, then anything is permittable. And once you have anything being permittable, then you don't have nothing anymore. You have something. And once you have something, then you have at least one rule that things have to follow. If you're going to say that you can't get something from nothing, well, then you've added a rule and you don't have nothing anymore. So there's never been a nothing for us to point to or observe to say this is what nothing is and how it works. Rather, we have a concept of nothing that we think is a thing, but isn't really a thing beyond a thing that we think that is a thing that's in our mind because we invented it. You can't demonstrate nothing. And if you had a true nothing, then that would be amazing and you'd probably get very famous. And I'm not sure what that would look like because, well, we've never had a nothing to look at. But when we get really close to a nothingness, a void of energy and molecules and subatomic particles and light and everything else, actually things start to happen despite there not being anything there, because nothing, or at least the lack of stuff, appears to be quantumly unstable. And then you get quantum particles popping into existence. Why? I don't know. Apparently, that's what happens when you remove enough stuff. Although it's technically not nothing, there's still stuff going on. But we got as close to nothing as possible. And we found that the properties of that state of removing stuff make stuff happen, even though that makes no sense to us at this level. That's what happens. So there never was a nothing. And in fact, the only people that really seem to believe a nothing is not any atheist or scientist that I know of, but rather apologists. After all, your books tend to say that something came from nothing. That's your claim, not ours. So the answer to this false dichotomy is it came from something. You just don't seem to know what that something is. But also it's a false dichotomy because it could come from some other thing that was neither something nor nothing, and we wouldn't know what that was either. But just because we don't know what it is doesn't mean that it's not a possibility. Ooh.
Can you think of another choice between those two? Realize that if you say energy, that would be something. It would not be nothing. It couldn't be nothing because that would absolutely make no sense whatsoever. The
Just because something makes no sense doesn't mean that it's not true. This is an appeal to personal incredulity, a logical fallacy, one of many that you've already presented us with.
had to be something for all eternity past. You can try.
All eternity past? I don't know that eternity exists as a thing other than a concept in our brains. You'd have to demonstrate eternity, which you couldn't do, even if it did exist. In fact, you couldn't demonstrate a true infinity either. But if everything's always existed into the past, great. Then we've always had something. All right. So we've always had a universe of some sort, although it wouldn't look like this universe. That seems to almost get close to the Big Bang cosmology that we have that adequately explains what we see. But I'm sure you're going to get that wrong.
Try this with a bank that you don't have an account with. Try withdrawing money. If it works, please teach me. So we can deduce from this that there always was at least something for all eternity. What it is, we haven't figured out yet. So then the next question. This something which was eternal, was it something personal or impersonal?
Strange dichotomy again. I'm not sure that it's a false dichotomy. It's certainly one that I'm suspicious of. Personal. What do you mean personal? Because the only thing that I know of that's personal is living creatures. I don't know of something that is not alive that is personal or could be personal. Inanimate objects are certainly not personal. This now this back scratcher here is certainly not personal. It's inanimate. It can't be anything. It just is. So if you're asking me if it's something like that, no, not really. It's chemicals, a bunch of chemicals and elements that are floating around in space. As far as it coming from, well, it didn't come from everything. It always was. All the energy that ever was and ever will be always existed forever in your situation that you're setting up for us. Okay, cool. But it's not personal because chemicals and energy and the things that are going to make the chemicals and make the energy possible, that even more than the energy that's there, are not personal. Elements aren't personal. They're just elements. So I guess we're going to have to go with non-personal because personal only makes sense when you have a person there and you don't. You don't have a person. People are human. So impersonal is the answer, I guess.
Something personal would be a being that has personality. Something impersonal would be like a rock, energy, gas, or some liquid. Anyway, now the question again is, are there any other options? I myself can't think of any other options.
Well, that's a you problem. There might be other options. And just because we can't think of them doesn't mean that they don't exist. This is why this is potentially a false dichotomy. People get wrong all the time that a false dichotomy requires you to identify another option. But the mere fact that there could be another option is enough for me to say, hey, look, let's not dichotomize this. More appropriately, it can only be a true dichotomy if you can demonstrate that these are, in fact, the only two choices. A switch, lights off or it's on. It can't be anything else. Well, what about that? Well, it's still either off or on. It's, yeah, it's in the middle, but is the lighter on or off? It's only two binary states. The energy always was. Okay, fine. And I don't know how energy could be personal, but I'm sure you're going to tell us this and get it completely wrong.
Could we all have come from something impersonal? That
Yes,
would not make any sense either.
but we did. We all, humans as we know them, did all come from something impersonal, a egg and a sperm. Now, this egg and sperm on their own, without being combined, are certainly impersonal. They're both alive to some extent, but they have no personality. Even once you combine them and they begin to form an embryo, that's still impersonal. It doesn't have a mind until a certain amount of time has gone by. And even once it does form a mind, it's still impersonal. It doesn't become a person until, I don't know, some stage of development. In fact, babies are basically almost blank slates. They don't have personalities. Well, not exactly. Maybe they kind of sort of do. I don't know. It's hard to say because we anthropomorphize them so much. The cute little thing. Oh, cute little baby. Sorry, I'm an atheist. I have to eat babies for pretend. It's a meme. It's been around a while. Anyways, yeah. But the impersonalness of the sperm and egg combo is certainly a thing that we all came from. So you're wrong already. We came from something impersonal. Well, but those things came from people. Okay, cool. Yeah, I guess. But the component pieces that made us are not personal. So the thing that made the thing is a person, but the thing that made the thing that is the person didn't have any control over making that thing. The woman has no control over producing eggs, and the man has no control over producing semen. So neither one of these people are directly responsible for producing these things. These things just are a natural byproduct of being alive for most people. Not everybody, because not all people produce these items. But for those who can produce these items, once these items meet each other in a certain position, then they are going to create a thing that will eventually be life. But how personal is any of this interaction when it's all natural? And really, the only thing that people did was interact with each other in a way that caused the two things to encounter each other. I don't know. You tell me. You seem to be good at answering questions that nobody really asks, except I asked them. So I guess somebody asked them. Anyways, I don't think you could answer that. But it seems to be that the answer is yes, we came from something impersonal. So what?
First question would be, how did personality develop? I mean, we don't see a rock getting angry. Our furniture doesn't fall in love with some other piece of furniture. Have you ever seen an anxious box?
No, that's stupid. Those things are inanimate objects that don't even have brains, thus don't have the capacity to gain emotions at all. Duh. When did it develop? I don't know. Early time? I mean, you'd have to study human history to find out when personality developed. But what personality is? Well, other animals also display personality. But you're only focusing on humans, right? You don't really care about other animals or other creatures. Do jellyfish display personality? I don't know. They display behavior. Is it the same as personality? They're alive, but are they personhoods? Don't know. Depends how you define person. Depends how you define personality. If this word is not coherent and defined in a scientific rigor, then it's going to be rather loose and flexible, which means that, sure, a rock can have personality. And so what? Or it doesn't have personality. And so what? Wherever or however we came to be doesn't really mean anything other than the answer to that question. And I don't know I know where you're going with this, but within your argument structure so far, it's not leading you anywhere other than into incoherence very quickly. It seems to me that you're just asking questions to which you think that you already know the answers to, which means you don't need to ask those questions, you just need to present the answers. But if you did that, of course, then your apologetic trope would be ruined, wouldn't it?
Even when you are about to throw it in the trash? Second of all, the second law of thermodynamics teaches us that everything will go towards disorder.
Ah, yes, the good old second law of thermodynamics that the creationist ID types love to pull out. Tell me, sir, what's the first law of thermodynamics? And how many laws of thermodynamics are there? Are you an expert in thermodynamics? No? You don't know? Why should I care what you say about it then? I don't think you know a single thing about thermodynamics. I know it's a very complicated set of axioms that seem to apply, at least to this universe, but whether or not they've always applied, that's another question entirely.
Energy will go towards less useful type of energy. Turn the light on.
Also, that's not what thermodynamics says, even a little. Less useful type of energy? No. Nope, that's not what it says. Let's bring it up. Let's see. Let's see. The second law of thermodynamics is a physical law based on universal empirical observation concerning heat and energy convergence. A simple statement of the law of heat always flows spontaneously from hotter to colder regions of matter, or downhill, quote unquote, in terms of temperature gradient. Another statement is not all heat can be converted into work in a cylindrical process. The second law of thermodynamics establishes the concept of entropy as a physical property of a thermodynamic system, etc., etc. That's just from Wiki. So, hey, remember everything that this guy said? Yeah, that was wrong. It isn't less useful. It's still useful, just in a different way. But this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, so.
And part of the energy will go towards heat. It really goes against all logic that's to say that something complex, as for instance, the human body, could develop without a designer.
That has nothing to do with anything. The human body and how it developed has absolutely nothing to do with the second law of thermodynamics. You have failed to show association and causation here. You mentioned the word science way back when, but you seem to be unaware of science, in this case, biology, broadly speaking, and biological evolution, generally speaking. Your ignorance of both of these topics doesn't help you get to any coherent conclusion on the matter. You don't understand it. I understand that you don't understand it, but then you think that misunderstanding will lead you to some coherent conclusion? No. Your ignorance and appeal to personal incredulity, saying, well, I don't know how else could it be other than it was designed, doesn't mean that it is designed. Besides, why in the world would the amusement park and the sewage waste system be put on top of and next to each other? That doesn't seem like intelligent design, and that seems like somebody was really lazy and incompetent to me. Why is it that two tubes run next to each other? One that's required for me to live and the other that's also required for me to live, but in a different way. And that one of these tubes can be clogged by the other one. That doesn't seem very intelligent. In other words, my eating tube and my breathing tube are right next to each other and require a flap that could malfunction. I was eating some cereal and I almost inhaled a piece of bran that would have killed me if I had done so, maybe. I need to cough it up. Why should that be? Why can't I breathe through some other apparatus than my mouth and my nose? Why couldn't breathing be done through my skin, for example? Doing so would remove the chance that I can choke. An intelligent designer would have thought of that and planned better. Also, why was I given this sort of body? A body that would wear out. And also, what exactly is my body designed to do anyways? Because, see, a thing that's designed usually has some purpose for it. And its specific structure tells us its purpose. What exactly is this meant to do? I don't know. But I'm sure you have a perfectly reasonable explanation for it.
When you see a beautiful painting, you know that there was a painter who made it. A book is written by an author and a building is designed by an architect. So,
and reality requires a realtor. You're a moron.
Creation is made by creator.
Yeah, circular reasoning is circular.
Because the only logical conclusion that we can come to is that everything came from something eternal.
No, that's not the only logical conclusion that we can come to. Also, you at no point even offered a logical argument to get to that conclusion, not even a little. You had zero syllogism. So you have no valid argument. And you can't have a sound argument if you don't even have a valid one. So, no, you didn't use logic. You used the word logic, but at no point during this entire video have you produced logic. You've produced nothing but appeals to ignorance and personal incredulity. That you can't think of a different explanation doesn't mean your explanation is right. It's just sad, really. Oh, But if we're going to have to go with something eternal where everything came from, cool. Energy. There you go. It was one little tiny dot of energy. And that's always been, because there was never a time when it wasn't. Because there wasn't any time before it was, because there wasn't time. Then, and we don't know when that then is, time and space began because, well, it began to expand. And why and how did that happen? No idea. It just did. We don't know why or how it did or what's going on there yet. But sure, your personal thing that makes no sense and hasn't been argued for is the explanation for that somehow, even though you've given us no argument for it whatsoever. That means not only should we be skeptical of your conclusions, but in this case, we have to disregard your conclusions because you gave us no argument. Literally, you've given us no reason to believe what you say.
That has personality. At the end, I promise you one passage which really shows how God made everything. It's Jeremiah 10, verse 12.
Told he was going to bring up the Bible. I said he was, and I was right. I said he was going to mention the Bible. I didn't watch the video. I promise I didn't watch this video. But I knew it. I just felt it in my bones, you know? Oh, man, they can't. I don't care what your thing says. Your thing says a thing. It doesn't matter. The lobster says that the universe was made 13 billion years ago. It gets that right. But does that make the rest of the lobsters right? Not necessarily, no. What makes the rest of the lobsters right is if you read it, you'll understand because it says that it's true and it can't be false. But anyways, you haven't read the lobster, so you know. Nobody's read the lobster. Nobody. Why has no one read it? One day somebody will debunk it. One day. Anyways, alrighty, where were we?
He has made the earth by his power.
I don't care. Blah 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 blah. Don't care. Don't care.
Took his power and created
Blah
the earth.
blah blah.
He took energy. Watch this next short video to see the 4 theories that are out there and how God created the earth. You'll have a good insight after just a few minutes. It's worth your time. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell button so you won't miss any of these videos.
Oh, man. Let's read the comments. Maybe there's some entertainment to be found there. Let's see. Get it big enough so we can read them on screen. And then go all the way to it. Here we go. All right. Let's see what the comments say. This argument is nothing more than a mix of false dilemmas. See? Misunderstandings of science. Actually, I would say not only did he didn't even understand science even a little. He didn't misunderstand it. He just didn't understand it. And arbitrary assumptions. The claim that everything must come from something or nothing ignores other possibilities like quantum fluctuations or eternal natural processes. Well, you would call those something. And then, without any justification, just declaring that something must be a personal being, that's not logic. It's just sneaking God of the equation without evidence. Correct. This guy gets a thumbs up from me. Oh, you already did. Let's just say he's right. You are right. Let's copy his name and get that down here. And get 1 lobster point. Okay. All right. The cosmological argument is based on the assumption that whatever fundamentally makes up the universe has to follow the logic of macroscopic things within the universe. Still, the cosmological argument only relies on uncaused cause probable enough to cause at least one universe. Beyond that is conjecture. Pretty much, but there's more objections to that. Yeah, this is the parts of the whole fallacy, the compositional fallacy. But he didn't even produce that argument. You're giving him way too much credit there. Iljuro. I have no idea how to say that name. Let's go ahead and give him a half a lobster point, though, shall we? Zero, you get half a lobster point. All right, that will make sense later. Okay. Oh, I should tell him that. That will make sense later. Okay. Anyway, so back to the video. Wait, no. I'm done with the video. that I was looking at. So, oh, wait. Reply. All right. Okay. All right. That's enough of that. The what mystery? Oh, the what? The what mystery? I thought it said. Yeah, I don't know. He's got a weird name. I don't know. He doesn't know anything. So yeah, typical nothing. And it didn't say why atheism was impossible at all. I noticed that. The position that there's no God isn't really the atheist position. Not in full, only in part. And to be honest, I don't know how many atheists would be willing to say that. I would need a wide scale survey of atheists, and the best I can do is a handful of atheists. I don't have the money or resources to do a wide scale survey. So, hey, peer review search. I know you're out there. Do that. Do that survey. Come on. Or why don't they fund the survey? Somebody do. Throw money at me. I'll do it. Sure. Anyways, so we had a bunch of just nothing here. But somebody wanted me to respond to the video, and I did. So whoever that somebody was, now I can't remember who it was, it sent me that thing, hey, here you go. I hope it was entertaining or something. I couldn't even really get mad at it because it's just nothing there to even really get mad at. It's like, I like to be irritated at this guy, but he's just so ignorant that I just feel bad for him. This old guy, he's preaching and he's going places that people have paid him to go and taking the pictures. Oh, look at this important place. Yeah, whatever. Why not survey how many Jedis there are? Yeah, well, Jediism became a pseudo religion for a while, didn't it? I don't know if that's still a thing or not. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So atheism is possible because I don't believe in God, and the idea that there's no God, well, yeah, that's possible too. We've got naturalistic processes that explain just about everything at this point. But even if we didn't have explanations, that wouldn't mean that then we're allowed to put in an explanation to say that, I have an explanation. More so, personhood, a personality, is only developed by other people, which he suggested in his video. But then he's telling us that there's a personhood that was always there. So at least one personhood doesn't need other people to produce it, breaking the rule. This is called special pleading. So since he didn't propose a way out of that problem, I suggest that his answer is more broken than ever before. And in fact, his answer isn't even an answer. It's just a guess at best, but really it's just because the Bible says stuff and he happens to think that that's correct. What methodology did he use to determine that it was correct? Don't know. Does he do it in his other videos? I doubt it. This is just a bunch of diddly squat. Oh, well, thanks for watching. And, I mean, that's it. I didn't do anything crazy. I didn't go insane. I didn't yell. Sometimes it's just like that. I can't always give you everything you want. Wait, I do have one thing I can do. Okay, hold on. Ta-da! Nose ring! Now I'm going to put this on my desk. Gee, I hope nobody takes it off my desk and puts it in their mouth. That would be extraordinarily stupid. Wait, that's not a pencil. Never mind. Thanks for watching. Until next time, be skeptical. And after next time, well, you should probably stay skeptical. All right. Let's hit the button.